Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer, sponsored by Arnold Clark. I'm Peter Martin, delighted to have your company on this Tuesday. Two guests in the studio with me, Alan Ruff as ever, my sidekick, and I'm delighted to say for the first time on the Football Show, the sports writer for the Herald and Evening Times, Alison McConnell, joins us. Ali, great to have you with us. Lots to talk about. We're going to get our teeth into today's agenda. Yeah, lots to discuss with Ruffy and Alison. First of all, news that's just broken today, Ruffy, about a notice of complaint. Some papers are calling it Bosgate, which is quite unusual. Not the best term, I have to say, for this one, but it is an unusual situation where Stephen McLean, violent conduct, 2-match ban. Greg Stewart's got a similar 2-match ban, and Darian McKinnon as well. Stephen McKinnon, Stephen McLean, you knew he was going to get it.
Yeah, I think so. It's not something that happens very often on the park. Obviously, the Gascoigne one was the big one. If it's down in the rules, that's what it is. That's what it is. But it seems pretty harsh for me. I thought maybe a game would have been enough for that.
Yeah, well, he's going to pick up the ban. The big question is, will Hearts appeal it, Alison? Because they've got crucial games coming up. They don't have any strikers.
Absolutely. I think there's no question that they'll appeal it tomorrow, especially on the back of today's news that Stephen Naismith's out for the next 2 months. Given the massive, they've got a huge catalogue of injuries already, I think there's no question, even if it's just to prolong it and make sure that he's available tomorrow night. But I don't think there's any doubt that he'll be, that they'll appeal it.
Yeah, just picking up on Ali's point there, Ruffy. Stephen Naismith is a tear in the cartilage. You knew right away the way the physio was holding his knee that he was in trouble. I think it's a huge blow to Hearts, especially at the point now where he's gone back to Norwich, his parent club. He'll have 8 weeks on the sidelines, and I don't think there's enough in the background there that can score the goals that he's been scoring.
No, Craig Levine's had to deal with. That's another one to add to the list. Obviously, the 2 defenders are out as well. We know he's lost him, sold Lafferty to Rangers, so they're pretty low on big players. You know, it'll be interesting to see what he's going to do about that. But it's a shame for Hearts, really. I mean, they have been a breath of fresh air for the whole season. And to start losing the players like that, I mean, they might struggle a wee bit to hold on to the first place.
Yeah, I mean, it's 11 goals in 16 games, Ali, but I think he brings much more to them.
I was just about to say, I think it's his influence that you miss more than anything, the sheer professionalism of a guy that's played at the very top level, international experience of playing in the English Premier League. He's a superb trainer, apparently, a great influence on those people round about him, and I think you miss that. I think he's become a bit of a talisman, I think, for Craig Levine's side, and I think there's no question that it's a miss. And this was always going to be the issue for Hearts, given the start that they had and the lead that they had established. I think now, if you would look to them to still be there by Christmas, they would be doing well, given the sheer volume of injuries that they've got. And I think the lack of depth was always what was going to betray them as the season went on.
Yeah, never mind club. What about country? We're now bereft of another striker.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, that Stephen Naismith down, and Brendan Rodgers was saying today that even if Lee Griffiths is back, and he's been very, very coy about what his injury is, the nature of it, how long he's out, then even if he is back, there's absolutely no question that if he is included in the squad next week, that he's not match fit. I don't think Griffiths has played since McDermott Park when Celtic beat St Johnstone 6-0. He's not made an appearance since then. He's not trained since then. I think he was injured on the first day back at Lennoxtown when he'd pulled out of the last Scotland squad. So you've got a guy there who's nowhere near being ready. So there's a huge question mark. Is it Stephen Fletcher? Who knows? I think Alex McLeish had intimated about possibly going back and speaking to Stephen Fletcher, and it might be a case now of needs must.
Yeah, Ruffy, I was very, very positive about Hearts from the start of the season. I still think they'll be top 3 if they can get reinforcements in January. This period now coming up over the next couple of weeks, I think could be a real test of their squad. I would go as far as to say, with the body blow of losing Stephen Naismith, with the injuries off the back of that to other key players, I would suggest to you now that I'm swaying towards Hibs going to Tynecastle and at least coming away with minimum a draw, but I think they might win it.
Well, obviously with the casualties they've got, Hibs will go there, thinking this is an ideal chance to get Hearts, obviously with these players missing. But we know like it is in derby games, things happen. Sometimes you don't see them coming, but Neil Lennon will go along there and hope that his players can rise to the occasion. And certainly against Celtic, although they could beat 4-2, I think there was parts of that game that he took a lot of encouragement from. But these derby games can throw up anything on the night.
Yeah, OK. If they're going to throw up something, are they going to throw up a Hibs win or a Hearts win for you?
I'm going to sit in the fence in this one. I think the Hearts players will still have some kind of momentum going along there, and it's always a very, very hard place to go to. So I'm going to go for a 1-each draw.
Yeah, Ali?
I'm going to go for Hibs. I just fancy that Neil Lennon's itching for a fight just now. I see him today having a wee pop at the fixture list. He was a bit irked in the aftermath of losing at Celtic Park a couple of weeks ago, and I think that's when you see the personality of his teams coming out. I just quite fancy that Hibs might take something. I also wonder about how it almost derails you when you lose, not just lose a semi-final the way that Hearts did on Sunday at Murrayfield, but I thought the manner of the performance too, it was very insipid. Once they lost Naismith, they just seemed to fall apart a bit. There was no real leadership on the pitch, there was no direction. And you wonder then how that seeps through the psyche almost of the squad. They've got Celtic again at the weekend in a top of the table clash, or potentially a top of the table clash. And you just wonder now if the seeds of doubt start to be sown and it unravels a little bit, just given the injuries and the situation in the last few days.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Neil Lennon has been, again, firing out. Neil Lennon at a press conference at the best of times, even when there's nothing happening, Ruffy. But he's mentioned the fact that, if anything, he's worried about his players in case rigor mortis sets in. He's in 3 games in the month. Everybody else is in 4 or 5 games. He's not happy with that. And he goes into December with it's a crazy schedule, something like 8 games they're playing, in a very short period of time.
Yeah, I think everybody's got something to say sometime in the season. There is a pile up. It doesn't matter what team you're with. You've just got to deal with it. It's not going to go away. I mean, some people go down with the thought of bring it on, and especially if you're winning these games. You just want the next one to come fast enough, but you've got to win them. And certainly, as we saw with Hearts, you don't want to be picking up injuries and suspensions around about this time of the year.
Yeah, well, as you're fully aware, there's a full card in the Premiership on, and lots of games for us to look forward to as well. We've been talking about Hearts against Hibs. There you are. Aberdeen, Hamilton, Dundee against Celtic, Livingston take on St Johnstone, Rangers at home to Kilmarnock. We'll hear from Stephen Gerrard shortly, and St Mirren against Motherwell, which is a massive game at the foot of the table. Let's switch our attention to Rangers, because coming off the back of that defeat to Aberdeen, it certainly put a dark cloud over many a fan's head, but certainly the players are at this moment trying to recover from a few warnings and a few harsh words from the manager, Stephen Gerrard, and again he reiterated today, heads could roll.
Jordan, as a player, to hear your manager say, if the players we have right now don't improve and start producing a bit of quality in the final third, my job is to find players that will do it. What effect does that have as a player? Is that a motivational thing to do?
Well, I think at any big...
I'll answer that. It's a warning. That's for me, that, not him. He's been injured for 2 years. At a big club, you'd expect big players to step up on big occasions and provide big moments. If that doesn't happen, at any big club, the manager and the recruitment, they find better players or players who will do that.
Well, there you are. I mean, if you could have a custard pied him there, he would have, by the way. You shut it, I'll talk.
It's like his big brother coming in, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's incredible. But by the way, he didn't miss them. My only concern with that is, that there's a fine balancing act by, as we know from previous managers, when you not so much rubbish, but when you're heavily critical of your team, you've still got to cajole them to the point where you hope the board back you financially to give you the money to get better players in.
Absolutely, but I also think there is a point there to be made. I think if you're going to play for Rangers, there's a demand for silverware and there's a demand for success, and you have to have that big game mentality. I think that's 6 games, 6 visits to Hampden for Rangers, and they've come away on the back of a defeat every time. I mean, there is a point where that becomes unacceptable, and you do have to ask questions. And I think if it comes down to mentality in the squad, you do have to look at it. I think Gerard's right. I think if you're going to play for a club where the currency is silverware and winning trophies, then you have to have that mentality. You can't have fear around it. You have to embrace the culture at the club, and you have to be able to go and play in that atmosphere and cope with that pressure. And just now, I think until Rangers come out and win something, I think there will be a perennial question mark over that just now.
Yeah, I mean, Ruffy, you can't dodge the situation which we've been on this programme very straightforward on, which is quite simply, I've said time and time again, they're not the finished article. The European results have masked major problems at the other end of it. They're not this great team that some people have been jumping on the bandwagon with. I still think, 2 or 3 players to get them to a point where they could finish second, but, I never contemplated Rangers this season being title contenders.
No, I think this is his second warning since he's been at Rangers. The first warning was the game against Celtic, when he realised that his players weren't good enough, and this is the second warning for him, that he realises now that the players aren't good enough to get into a final. And obviously, with the success that he's had as a player, he'll want that success, and now he's having to deal with it. We saw it there at the interview, but it's just a sort of a wee reality check of what's going to happen if you don't keep winning. But I agree with you. I think it's great, all the wins they had, talking about the history, are undefeated and that, but you have to really take things into perspective, and look at the teams who they beat to go there. And in all fairness to Steven Gerrard, he did that. He didn't gloat on it. He said there's a long, long way to go, but he's going to have to get some serious money if he thinks he's going to start challenging at the top.
They're taking on Kilmarnock, and he's looking for a reaction.
I think what's important is we just go and get the 3 points and get back to winning ways. We had an incredible following there at Hampden at the weekend, and I'm sure the supporters are feeling very similar to ourselves at the moment. So I think we owe it to them in terms of a reaction, individually, collectively. Hopefully that's the case, and we send them away tomorrow happy.
OK, Ibrox is becoming a little bit of a fortress, but if you're going to try and bounce back, Kilmarnock's not a great side to try and bounce back against, because the stats, I was looking at statistics coming out today, they are the in-form team for the year 2018, Ali.
Yeah, I think they were pretty poor at the weekend, to be fair. I think they had quite a disappointing performance on Saturday too. However, you would expect a different Rangers as well. I think Morelos is back, Kyle Lafferty is back. I think that gives you a different complexion to the personnel. It gives you an out that they never really had on Sunday. So, and you would expect an immediate reaction, I think. But I appreciate what you're saying. I think Steve Clarke's done a wonderful job at Kilmarnock. They really are they're a good team to watch most of the time, and I think they'll embrace the fact they're going to Ibrox and playing on a very inviting surface. They're getting away from the concrete at Rugby Park and getting down to play on a proper surface, a wide open space. And I suppose if you're in their shoes, you've nothing to lose tomorrow night. You're going anticipating a backlash, you're going and the crowd's against you, you're expecting everyone expects Rangers to come away with the win, so you've nothing to lose, which encourages a freedom about how you play.
Well, they picked up a point, Ruffy, but they've sneaked into second place without anybody noticing. He's also changed the strike force this season, which again, from all the goals that were being scored by Chris Boyd, suddenly he's found himself on the bench. It's been a Brophy-Stewart partnership that's delivering a good goals ratio return.
Yeah, and they seem to have a lot more energy up front as well, and they've got variations as well. Obviously, Chris Boyd just coming on and playing a part role just now. But there are other players coming in, and every time they come in, they prove that they were worthy of the selection. I think Rangers are fortunate enough the game is at Ibrox and no over at Kilmarnock, because that would have been a right test, for the players to bounce back from that. But I agree with Ali. I think, with the 2 strikers back, I'm sure the support will get right behind them and they'll just nick this one.
Yeah.
Just an interesting point in Brophy too, when we're talking about Griffiths and Naismith being out. I just wonder if Brophy's an outside bet maybe for Scotland, if it's one that McLeish might consider.
Yeah.
Just
Joe
given what he's
Jordan's
been
an
doing.
outside bet at the moment, Ali. We haven't got any strikers.
To be fair, if you're talking about Stephen Fletcher, a guy who's been over the course before, you might want to go to a guy who's fresh, who's in form.
Yeah, I mean, Ruffy, but that's the point that I think we are bereft of quality strikers, even the ones that we have available that we're arguing over who should start, who's actually managing to get a run of 3 or 4 games. Everybody's talking about Griffiths, and then all of a sudden he disappears. You're looking, you're saying to yourself, is it Ollie McBurney who's going to end up playing up there on his own again? It's such a tough call, and these are 2 games that we need to put in a performance. Yeah,
I think it probably will be. I think that's why it's so crucial we get our midfield right. I think the players that we pick in a midfield 5, if it's a 5, that is midfield players who score goals, like James Forrest, who we know can get goals. We know McGinn can get goals. We know Armstrong can get goals. So I know we're worrying about the strikers, but I think that just puts the pressure on the midfield players to come up with the goods.
Yeah, okay. Are you both going for a Rangers win in this one?
I'm going to go for a draw.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Rangers 2-1.
Okay, Rangers to bounce back. We've already picked out what's happening in the Hearts Hibs game. What about Dundee Celtic? Well, if you're talking about 2 contrasts in how the managers are feeling at the moment, Jim McIntyre can't buy a win. Brendan Rodgers has watched his side book their place in the first of this quest for yet another treble. So Celtic on a high, can anything stop them at Dens Park?
No, the way Dundee are shedding goals, obviously Brendan Rodgers again will rotate the team a wee bit. Some people will get games, and the ones that come in will be the ones that will want to impress Brendan Rodgers. So that's another one that Dundee have got to contend with. But no, I think Dundee have shown anything at all, and the results don't prove that they're going to take in off of Celtic.
If anything, the man of the moment, and I thought it was a great headline in one of the tabloids this morning. He's been a 3-year overnight sensation, Ryan Christie. Boy, has he had to wait his time. But this is the moment where he has to grasp it to try and get that contract that's suddenly been discussed.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? It was interesting to hear Brendan Rodgers say in the aftermath of the game on Sunday that he's a player he wanted to keep, because I think when everyone's fit, I think Ryan Christie's best bet is a fringe player at Celtic. I don't think you're ever going to see him play every week, no matter what he's doing. But the recent injury to Griffiths has highlighted the fact that there is only Odsonne-Edouard there, and I think he's struggled a bit this season. I think we've seen in glimpses what he can do, but I think now's the time to go and give Christie a shot and let's see what he's got. But it all comes down to team selection. You would anticipate that he would be in the starting lineup for the game tomorrow night. In the aftermath, I think he was involved in all 3 goals on Sunday. I think he could have claimed 2. I think Forrest had actually crossed the line. I don't think the linesman had given it, but I think he could have claimed 2 goals. And yeah, he has had to be patient. I think he looks physically stronger. I don't know if he's maybe done a bit of work when he's been out the team, if he's been in the gym and following a programme, but he certainly looked more robust physically, I think. And he'll feel himself, if Griffiths is out, then why doesn't he have a chance to go and show what he's got? He's 23. He really needs to be playing football now. He's sat twiddling his thumbs for a while here, and I think he left his calling card on Sunday. I think he gave an indication of what he can do.
Yeah, I mean, Ruffy, to be perfectly honest with you, Olivier Ntcham's slightly gone off the boil as well. It's an interesting point Ali makes there of whether he's got a long-term future. If we go back 10 days, people were going, well, Christie could go, Scott Allen's on the way out in the summer as well. You start to pick lists of people who have been written off. And Callum McGregor was one of those two or 3 years ago as well.
No, we certainly haven't written him off. We've talked him up, particularly at Aberdeen as well. And that goal that he scored at the weekend, he scored 2 or 3 of them at Aberdeen, side foot. That was a side foot into the top corner. Fantastic strike. And I think he's just a player who needs a chance. He needs games, and I think Barry talked about it as well. When you come into a Celtic team or a Rangers team, you need games. It's different for playing with Aberdeen and Hibs and Hearts. You're in front of fans that are demanding that you put in 100% performance every game. And that's what he's got to do. But I don't have any doubts at all that he'll do it. On the Sham one, I think he's struggling because Brown's not there. I think he just shows you how much Brown and Sham, just bounce off each other. And I thought he lost the influence of Brown being beside him.
Okay.
To be fair to Cham, I think he was struggling with a knock. I think he came
off at half time.
Yeah, he came off at half time.
Yeah. What do you think then? Celtic to win this one?
I think you'd anticipate Celtic to go and win it relatively comfortably.
I think Jim McIntyre will set his stall out tighter than usual, and I think it'll probably be Celtic 2-0.
Yeah, okay. Of the other matches, certainly Aberdeen against Hamilton. Well, Aberdeen don't want, apparently, a 50-50 split, Ruffy, so that gets them off the hook, because I think every panellist yesterday said there's no danger. Meanwhile, the Aberdeen fans are up in arms about it, but realistically, I think the semi-final supplied enough evidence to suggest, okay, you can have a block, which is 10,000, then you sell another block and another block until you get to a point where you know you're not going to sell any more tickets.
Yeah, I think that's a sensible way. I think it was a bit embarrassing the last time, particularly for Aberdeen, you know, obviously having been annoyed at the time and the place the first time and then demanding what they wanted and then not selling the tickets. So I think they'll be realistic as well to the amount of tickets they can sell.
Yep.
In fairness, I do think for a cup final a 50-50 split is fair.
Yeah.
However, you can see why people get indignant if you take tickets that you can't sell. If you're going to return tickets, you can see then why people get irked about it. So I think you ask and you request a number that you think is plausible that you're going to sell, and then maybe there's an expectancy that if you sell them, you can go back and request more.
Yeah, one of the things I forgot to tell you about, Ali, on this programme, the last thing we need on it is fair, and we also don't have sporting integrity as well, Ruffy. There's none of that in football in Scotland. You only have to look at the last 2 or 3 months and what's been going on. Give me your prediction, Aberdeen, Hamilton.
An Aberdeen win.
An Aberdeen win for me.
Okay, so we're looking at Livingston against St Johnstone. St Johnstone maybe just starting to get their act together.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a test for Livingston, but it gives us an idea, you know, that if they can keep the momentum going, particularly at home. A lot of people struggle on that surface, but obviously St Johnstone are better away from home than what they are at home.
Okay, briefly, who's going to win it?
A draw.
Livingston.
Livingston. And St Mirren against Motherwell, huge, bottom of the table. And I think, you know, even Stephen Robinson this morning has said, this is massive.
Mm-hmm. There's no question about it. The next 2 games are huge for Motherwell. They've got St Mirren and then they've got the Dundee. If they really want to pull away from that relegation zone, this is when they have to do it, because I think it gets a bit more fraught here on in. I think they've got they've got Rangers, they've got Aberdeen coming up. They've got big games. If you're mired down there in the relegation zone and you start to approach the turn of the year, then you start to get antsy. I think, what is it, one win in 10?
Yeah.
Or 1 win in 9, 10th position. They desperately need to take something tomorrow night.
Give me a prediction.
We go for a draw.
Okay.
And the highlights that I've seen in Motherwell, they've had chances in games and they're just not converting them. I think there will be a game where these chances will go in, and I think that will be tomorrow night.
Okay, just before we finish, there's a certain man celebrating his 59th birthday. One of his first ever goals, as you're about to see here, was in this country. In fact, I think he's 58. I beg your pardon, I made him older than he was. I'm talking, of course, about a man that some people think the greatest footballer of all time. It's open to debate, but we say happy birthday to Diego Maradona. Is he the greatest of all time for you, Ali?
I think for people of my vintage, probably.
There you are, Ruffy. That's what I call a Steven Gerrard custard pie towards you. So, Ruffy, he's got a claim for it. 58, but he had some wonderful memories as a player.
Yeah, he certainly did. I was privileged enough to play in that game at Hampden, and in the first half, obviously, wasn't good enough to score by me, but he did score in the second half, I believe.
Who was in goal in the second half?
I think it was George Wood the second. Just a quick story if you've got time.
Yeah, fire away.
Ian Munro marked him in that game, and obviously, when you mark Maradona, you want to keep it in your history books, and somebody gave him the old VHS tape of him marking Maradona. It was a 10-minute clip of him tackling him and everything out with it, and he gave me a loan of to have a look at it, and unfortunately one of my kids taped over it Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So he hasn't spoken to me since.
It's your worst nightmare. And on that note, apologies to Ian Munro for Ruffy regaling us with that story. Happy birthday, Diego Maradona. It's been an absolute joy, actually, to have Alison with us. She'll be back with us, I'm sure, on a regular basis. Thanks to Alison McConnell of the Herald and the Evening Times. From Ruffy and myself, Peter Martin. Don't forget, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel Monday to Friday, The Football Show. Thanks for watching.
We are going to play PES 2019. As you know, we have to select two sides. I have picked Coca-Cola from the Mexican League, and Barry has picked Barcelona.
Here's Ruffy.
Oh, it's an own goal! Oh! What's that clown doing? All you have to do is like and share.
For your chance to win an Xbox in PES 2019.